Hi, I'm back again finally. It's felt like forever just to sit down and just like make a video about a subject of some sort or what have you. Um, but since I know I'm just going back, I think I put it towards the end of the comment section. But if you look in the description, not the comment section, excuse me, description, there's a link to a just live hangout live stream of that conversation that I just had with Dennis Dale on Friday. And I actually do reference, well, it'll probably be in part two because, but I'll probably send a recopying the same things from here below because I'm not going to talk about all of these things. 'Cause again, this is just part one. So if you're looking at the title of this video, hmm, I'm going to actually edit something real quick. All right. So let's see. We're on screen share, right? Yep. Okay, so I've read Tool. This is probably about 4 or 5 years ago now, somewhere in that ballpark. And the book unto itself, it's quite a book. In the story surrounding it, the author. There's a couple of different interesting points there. I think I actually might do a video. I thought about this back around a video on a chapter from this book at some point, maybe. Don't hold me to it, but there's something floating around. And also, don't forget, Punta Cana asked if any people would feel like me doing a Twin Peaks video. So maybe I'll just make a note to myself to later come back and just talk to you guys and see if anybody be interested. I have some cool ideas considering part three, but anyway, I just made notes to myself. I remember I talked about that like 2 weeks ago. So Peter Sotos' Tool. This is a book. One of Now, I'll be honest. Oh, my phone is silent. I can't find my copy of it. It's either here or it's like where I'm storing some books and some other things that aren't where I live. So I don't know. Between the two, I was getting a little nervous. So anyway, because I think there's more. But as you're seeing, looking here at the Amazon description, there's like just duplicates of the same. Well, no, except for the audio. Never mind. Sorry. So Mikita Brottman, author of 13 Girls. You read books, and that's actually one of my favorite things is when people it's just some of the descriptions or the reviews or like the kind of notes about the author by other people, other similar authors, different authors, whatever, just how people word those things sometimes. Actually, it's gave me a second idea, but I'll leave that out of the discussion for a tangent off again. So we read this one, and this always struck me. And I was like, man, I would like somebody to describe my work like that. Or it's just such a way of describing someone's work. And it just, I don't know, let me just read it aloud. Just realized maybe I should like make my screen a little bit more big. All right. We do not find in Sotos the customary delusions about childhood misery and wounded lives. For this latter-day Homo Sacer, wounds are not to be healed but poked and worried until they bleed. Sotos is literature's outcast, carrying stigma like a rat carries plague. And I was like, whoa, that's just such that's such an ending and that's such a description. There's sometimes I'm really struck by like a certain mix of alliteration or use of adjectives or hold on for 1 second. Wow. Now I'm going back to edit that out. We had a little feeding situation here. Emergency pet feeding. Anyway. So all this always struck me, and then the discussion that I just want to touch on here in part one and part two really made me think of this. And I guess just from the title, without over explaining or getting too, it's like this man about it. You can read the title and you could probably take away from everything that is kind of discussed in these two parts. And, maybe I'll come back around the other end in case I think there might be something amiss between. So So that is a review of Peter Sotos and Tool. Let's go. So I always kind of honed in on the ending and, hence the title of this video. But I wasn't particularly familiar with this term, this Latin term homo. I'm wondering if I'm putting too hard of an A on it, and I do apologize because it seems like it should just be a lot more so like Homo Sacer. So I can't, but I feel like it's probably closer to that than the hard A, that I tend to put on things due to the dialect in my region. So, yeah, let's start here. This is from just Oxford reference. Let's get this one a little bigger too. That's my vision is getting I'm having a little trouble with computer screens. All right. So, translated literally as sacred man, the classical concept has attached significant attention in contemporary critical theory because of Italian philosopher, I want to leave that out because it's just about one person's book. You know what? We just have to go straight to Wikipedia source. My apologies. There was just one line out of there that I believe is repeated here in the description anyway. So, Homo Sacer is a figure of Roman law. A person who is banned and may be killed by anybody, but may not be sacrificed in a religious ritual. The meaning of the term Sacer in ancient Roman religion is not fully congruent with the meaning it took after Christianization, in which was adopted into English as sacred. In early Roman religion, Sacer, much like the Hebrew Wados, denotes anything set apart from common society and encompasses both the senses of hallowed and that of cursed. This concept of the sacred is more in line with the Islamic notion of haram. The Homo Sacer could thus also simply mean a person expunged from society and deprived of all rights and all functions in civil religion. Homo Sacer is defined in legal terms as someone who can be killed without the killer being regarded as a murderer and a person who cannot be sacrificed. The sacred human may thus be understood as someone outside the law or beyond it. With respect to certain monarchs and certain Western legal traditions, the concepts of the sovereign and the Homo Sacer have been conflated. So I think that, so that was pretty much all I wanted to pull out of there. And I don't think I put these in the links in the description below, but I mean, you see the term. I believe you can, and I mentioned it I do mention that, right? Sort of, okay. I'll maybe just add that in. So while I just lift that real quick, just so there's a function here. If I found it funny to come across, I've read this review maybe numerous times, but I hadn't really stopped to think about that concept of that personhood, that status, that legal status, Homo Sacer. And I stopped. I said, just out of curiosity, something's like, let's go look that up a little bit. And so those are a few things on the surface that I found. And I just found it very interesting how, with the subject matter of the video, it just seemed kind of perfect, a kind of serendipitous, type of little theme to explore. So I think I'll just kind of riff on that in the first video, and maybe I'll just play a clip, and then I'll pick up the rest of the story in part 2. So let me just do this real quick, just so I don't forget. And so you really getting to see how the sausage is made. Like in my little YouTube function. Because if I don't do it now, I might forget. And then all I could do is then just copy paste this into the part 2, because it's all pretty much the same things I'm talking about. So, all right. So, again, that's all I wanted out here. It is the one who maybe not be sacrificed, yet may be murdered with impunity. So that's let's just take that as one standalone here. So there was a lot of the talk about, especially when it comes to Black women and being a part of, to being I think Kendall St. Charles once in an older video called it like the Black woman is like the homeroom of the race and of the community. And if you hear any humming in the back, it's the wash. It's Sunday. I apologize. Perfect time to do these things. So So that in itself, like the one who may not be sacrificed, like the black woman's a homeroom in the community, yet may be murdered with impunity. So it was just such a kind of crazy definition to stumble upon, and then to see that just kind of staring at me, and all of these things, these like weird tangents that I'm just going to kind of loosely go into without too much form. So if the black woman's a homeroom, she's a birth of the race. She's the one, the designated survivor. She's the one birthing the babies, the one, putting money on the books, the one, being the head of the household, all that stuff. So there's like this, you can't sacrifice her, and this is from everything, just from like the mammy, the mule that we think of in those very negative ways in a lot of discussions that black women over here and these circles tend to have, but it stretches all the way out to just something not necessarily negative, but like, for instance, one common point that I hear said by many black women across the scene is, well, we're the genes, we're like the melanin, we're like the, we are like the phenotypically, sub-Saharan descendant black African American, whatever type of diasporic background you fall into, or ethnicity or point of origin, whatever. So, but represented by that phenotype that, that it's something, what I know, we know across like the spectrum, like women that kind of cluster. I'm just gonna throw a few examples out: Michelle Obama, Kerry Washington, Serena Williams, just women you look at, they're black, or they're probably likely American. I know I just used 3 American examples. Okay, Lupita Nyong'o, Viola Davis, Grace Jones, just reaching like women that are black, like the kind of baseline phenotype. 9 times out of 10, roughly 95%, when we think of a woman of that, that genetic racial heritage. Let me take a quick sip of water. So that's those are just 2 ends or 2 parts of the entirety of what cannot be sacrificed. We make them. So someone even said once, well, so is it just to have dark skinned black women around just to like, cook, clean, and keep birthing, dark chocolate, Mandingo Kangs for like non-black women to like, for them to choose, for them to absorb. Like you don't have the dark chocolate, what a man, but brother, without those types of black women. Okay. So then it is the one who may not be sacrificed, yet may be murdered with impunity. So is that not the heart of, I don't want to go too far. You can think of what I mean by being murdered with impunity. I mean that in the literal sense, the murder rates of black women in the black race by black men, hell, and then in some cases by each other. Just the general crimes here of the black community as a whole is definitely a part and parcel to this. But we go in particular to that common refrain that it's not, white Aryan Kangs walking around killing black women at astronomical rates. It's black men. So we have murder in a literal sense. Isadora Storm, actually, I could try to find it. She had this video, just this, real kind of nice tribute of black women, murder victims, and then the missing women. Anyway, so there's the whole very visual, very lived in, literal, like, I won't even deign do another example of anything because you know exactly what I'm talking about. The literal sense of murder with impunity. But then we can take it down to another avenue, to murder in terms of reputation. I think who just said it? I think it might have been Kendall, but it could have been someone else. I know this has come up in a couple places. You can go in other parts of the world. Ooh, maybe I'll look for that in a second. But there's actually this black woman travel blog. She like just travels around Europe and here and there, and she did a piece specifically on the subject of like, now that let me break here. That's a little twofold, because if you are, some people, particularly know ones from parts of Africa where they're up there, they're definitely there to like prostitute or whatever. It just is what it is, whatever. Versus you being someone who's not, you're just a black American, like maybe you're a grad student, you're just there, you like were in the army and you got like a trip, you're just there. So that could explain some of the differences too. But just the fact that in some places and spaces, Black women can certifiably tell you that they've overwhelmingly been in situations abroad, like I'm just going to say outside of a Western country, if not just isolate America in particular, because I think, just to just say Western country, and had some type of story or experience or just something circumstantial situation where someone definitely targeted them like, hey, yeah, hey, hey, hooker over there, or even just like the culture, that like the kind of the globalization of rap and hip hop and music video culture, to where you see Black women, so it's weird. This is I'll leave it at this point because I think I've over explained this one, and I think the murder with impunity thing requires maybe one or two more examples. I'll leave it here. So the music video culture, and again, one day I'm gonna do a real, I like to do a distributed level treatment of this subject. I kind of feel the 90s, the 80s to the 90s and 90s to 2000s and kind of beyond. There's these really specific things happen. So the early ages of hip hop and stuff and rap, the messaging wasn't. It was still bad. It had a lot of maybe it had the elements of the toxic misogynoir that is just standard today. But there was, I know I think, I don't want to get too deep in this. The 80s, at least perceived by a lot of Black people as being like, oh, it wasn't that bad. They were just rapping about a hibbity hibbity hop and, doing like the Running Man on a piece of cardboard or something. It was just this like thing. But then there's been some challenging points I've encountered that suggest no, it was maybe just wasn't all the blood splatter yet, but all the the problematic toxic Black male masculinity was already there. It was already baked into the cake. And then the 90s, so then you have Black women kind of already there, shaking to it. It wasn't what we think of by like the 90s and onward, but but we were still a part of that, shaking it, pumping up that whole genre, being like, the backup dancers, the little singing like the little chorus and shaking our booties. Then by the 90s, and you hit this kind of like, you go over this cliff, like, after C. Dolores Tucker, after the warning signs, and then it's just like whoosh over a cliff, and then it's the Snoop Dogg culture. The girls walk around with chains on them. A lot of the Ice Cube songs about fucking a bitch. Like Today Was a Good Day. I remember really liking that song as a kid, and I used to like sing along too. Like I knew the words to that, and I'm not gonna play it now, but I'm just thinking that's one example of a song where I'm like, ugh, like the graphic sex details and the very just callous, like I pulled out my dick and she opened her legs and spread them, and then well, like just not, just it's not even it's not the degeneracy of it or whatever that bothers me. It actually doesn't really. It's just so rote and base, and then the sexualization of Black women, and that that was created, they participate in, like songs like "Gangsta Bitch." So funny, like all y'all trap queens and thoughts today, but that song, like, it's so crazy because it has a video. I may just find that later. So the murder with impunity, the reputation hit that Black women kind of go through, like it is just like it's just so strange how fast it happened. But anyway, you murder somebody's reputation, their sexuality, their perception, the perception of the outside world to them and their womanhood and femininity. I think I'll leave it there with this, but because one thing it randomly crossed my mind when I thought about that in terms of this statement about Homo Sacer. Well, even now, I guess now it's more like the boomers and guys who are slightly older, maybe around the X. I mean, Diana Ross is a pretty big cultural icon that everybody like knows, but like it's weird. So like this, I'll definitely leave this here and come back in part 2 because I didn't want this to be too long. I know it's already probably 20-30 minutes, and I do apologize, but I think I got enough in here, and this would be a good place to stop. Diana Ross, you still run into guys, especially like non-Black, mostly particularly white, being like, "Oh, Diana Ross is such a babe. She's such a babe." And then by like the 90s and onwards, maybe towards mid 2000s, you get but I think Halle Berry is sexy and awesome. So it's that, and that there is twofold. So Halle Berry, she kind of more self-identifies as Black. There is a kind of social, cultural one-drop ruleism in America, particularly. um, that plays out on both sides of the race in very different ways, but ways are also intertwined and ways are very separate. So in one way you can see, so they went from a fully like, oh, like guys, that fully black woman like Diana Ross to like this biracial, woman who, due to one drop rule, self-identification, is the new black, black lady that guys will just randomly tell you they think is sexy or attractive or hot. And Hallie, Diana Ross still looks like a fox, going forward, but like it's like I wonder when or if is there going to be like anything beyond like her, like are there any there's well, I guess the culture is a little bit different now. Like people are just honing like one big mega celeb, there's a Jennifer Lawrence or like a Bradley Cooper, but but overall, like, or Clooney, I think that's their example, how like just everyone knows them, and that maybe that part of like Hollywood and pop culture is dying off. So like we won't have her, they say need some black woman. But then with social media, people all over the place in different ways, it'll probably be more fragmented just because the nature of like culture and nature of celebrity is changing. But anywho, I feel myself kind of drifting there because I on this point, but I think I kind of established in just so many words what I wanted to say. So what I'm gonna do is let this go, and I'll be back in a second with part 2. So as you can see from the links below, those will be the next things to come, and I will see you in a few.